Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to episode 2 of my series of how to leave bartending and start a new career. In this episode, we're going to break down exactly how you can make six figures outside of the bar. And the premise is you already have the skills. You don't need any additional training. You don't need a degree, any things like that. You're able to jump right into a high paying job and learn this quickly. So let's break it down for you. The first thing is 100,000 isn't that hard outside of the bar. You just have to change your mindset and believe you can make it. On glass door, glass ceiling, you're making $113,000 a year on average as a high ticket closer. That's without a degree, that's without any special training. That is the average for high ticket closers. So how do you get into that role? How do you start making that sort of money? You already have the skills. As a bartender, you've been preparing for this for years. You just haven't really realized that. So the ceiling is a mindset, not a resume. So let's get into it. You're already closing for a living. As a bartender, every time someone walks into your bar, every time someone sits down at your bar, you're reading the room. You're sizing up a stranger in seconds to make sure that they have the best experience possible. That's discovery. You're upselling on instinct. You're selling a double. You're selling a higher value bottle of wine, more expensive whiskey, a steak instead of a burger. This is a skill set that you're going to be using in sales, and you're using it every night. This comes naturally to you. You're handling objections. You're diffusing tough situations. You already have the communication skills that are the base for sales. And of course, every time someone closes out a tab, you're asking for money. And so the end of any sales process, you have to ask for that money, ask for that close. And that's something you're doing multiple times every single night. So let's break down the numbers. What does $100,000 actually look like in a year? That breaks down to about $8,300 a month. And these deals are big. They're minimum $5,000 all the way up to $30,000, $40,000. And you're taking 10% of everything you sell. So let's take the low end of that $5,000 deal. You close that, you get $500. That would mean about 16 deals a month or 4 closes a week. And if you're getting, eight calls a day, that's really a low percentage. You should be closing 30+% of your calls, of your qualified calls. So this is really the absolute baseline. You can make much, much more, but this just shows you how realistic that $100,000 number is and how easy you can get there in high ticket sales. So there's really 3 roads to your first $100,000. So the easiest way to get into high ticket sales, and what I recommend for everybody, is to start as a setter. A setter is kind of like your bar back. You're booking and qualifying closes or calls for closers. And so because of that, you're not actually asking for the money. You're just qualifying these calls and passing them on to a closer for them to close it. Generally, you make base plus 5% commission for these. And because of that, you have a little bit lower expected income. So that would be about $2,000 to $7,000 a month. You stay in that role, 4 to 6, 7 months, and then you're ready to move into a high ticket closer role. And it really prepares you perfectly for it because you're doing all the process that a closer is doing. You're just not closing the deal. And so then once you move into that high ticket closer role, you're running those sales calls for these coaches, these agencies. You're getting 10% of everything. And the average is kind of that $8,000 to $20,000 a month. And 20,000 plus is quite common in this industry. I'd say over 10% of closers are making over $20,000 a month. This isn't some pie in the sky number, very realistic numbers. The top closers in the industry are making 6 figures plus per a month. Obviously, you have to be exceptional for that, but in any career, to make exceptional money, you have to be exceptional. The option is there. The ability and the capacity is there. The third option is to get more of a salary plus commission role in a B2B or a SaaS sales role. And It takes a little bit more to get into that role because since they're paying a salary, the interview process is a little bit more challenging and it's not quite as straightforward to land that first role, but it's a very good option if you're looking for a bit more stability and something that you can grow in as well. So, start as an appointment setter. This is the lowest barrier to entry in all of sales. You book calls for someone else, and when they close on the closer's calendar, you take a cut of that close. Typically, you're making $2,000 to $7,000 a month with this. Usually, there's a small base salary plus, around 5% commission. It says 10 here. It's generally 5% commission, and you're booking calls, qualified calls for that closer. You book 5 calls a day, the closer closes 2 of those, you're making 5% of every single one of those deals. And the great thing about this is it teaches you the offer and the objections before money is on the line. So you're learning as you're growing, just like a bar back is learning all the operations of the bar before they step up and start making those drinks and interacting with the customers. Same thing here as a setter. Then you move up to the high ticket closer. And in this rung, you should be making 6 figures plus. If you're not, something's up, right? So you're taking 10% of every deal. Generally, there's not a base pay when you step up to closer because you already know that you're good enough to be making money every single month. And that 10% is going to pay you more than enough. Usually there's bonuses as well for performance bonuses when your close rate's a certain amount, when you hit a certain target number of closes in a month. So, you get that $8,000 to $20,000 that comes from your commission plus your bonuses. You can expect 20, 25% of your income from bonuses, the rest from your commissions. You're already taking pre-booked warm calls. This isn't cold calling. This isn't multi-level marketing. These are qualified leads that have come through the funnel, are on your calendar, they're ready to talk, they're ready for a change. You walk them through that process, you close the deal, you make money for that. And so from these, what does it look like? First thing you're going to do is get your setter role. And in that role, you're going to become comfortable in the industry, learn the skill sets, learn the operations, learn your CRMs, your client resource management system, and be able to really figure out the industry. Just like being a barback, this is where you're learning, this is your proving ground, and you're making money while you're doing it. You're learning that offer, you're booking calls for the closer, and you're learning how the process works. Then month 5 to 8, you start closing. You start closing your own deals. Someone now starts setting for you, and then you close down those deals and you're making 10% of everything you close. And then, months 9 through 12, that's really when you should be expecting to get those 8 to 12,000 plus months. And you're already consistently at that 6-figure number, that 6-figure per year income. So don't wait. You can get started on this right now. The biggest thing is the mindset shift. You're not just a bartender. You're a sales professional. Every single night you're selling. And the revenue you're bringing in from that bar is sales revenue. So treat it as such. On your resume, change things, change the wording, show the numbers that you're drawing every night. Make it look like you are the sales professional that you are behind the bar. And then pick a lane. My suggested lane is to become a setter. That's the quickest way to get your foot in the door and start making money. And from there, you become a closer very quickly, and it's just a natural progression. And that team is going to help you learn the process and help you grow in there. So right now, right today, this week, you can make a list of 10 offers. These are coaches or agencies that are looking for people to represent them. So you've probably all seen this on Instagram, on YouTube, people who are talking about changing people's lives, whether that's in relationships or fitness or in business or in finances. These are the main categories. when you see these, when you see people talking about these big life changes, start following them. Start making note of who these people are, what they're selling, what their funnel is, and how you can be in front of them. And then finally, reach out to 5 people that had these offers, 5 of them that you could see yourself representing. Just make a short Loom video. Reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in getting into the industry. How do I do that? And just start from there, because starting is the hardest point. So many bartenders are nervous about, how am I going to make as much money as I'm making behind the bar? Well, don't leave your bar position yet. Just start during the day. Start doing something while you're already scrolling on Instagram. And that's going to be your beginning. So this isn't for everyone. I want that to be clear. Before you leap into this is a commission paid position. Some months you're going to make a bunch of money. Some months you're going to make less. You got a budget for that swing. But the good news is bartenders are used to swings. Tips are essentially commission. You're essentially getting that 18, 20, 25% of whatever you're selling. So you're used to these swings, but you have to realize that this isn't a salaried position. This is something you have to budget for, and there's going to be great months and less great months. So just keep that in mind. There's also dips, especially when you're new to this. The first 90 days are an investment. You're not going to make as much in the first 3 months of this, but as you grow, as you learn, 1 year from now, you should be making more than you are behind the bar. So those first 3 months, you're going to make a little bit less. So keep some shifts behind the bar. Keep that income. Don't just walk away from it. This isn't for everyone, but neither was learning how to bartend. You did that. You became a badass bartending. So if you can do that and you can apply yourself and do this, you already have the skill sets. So just want to make that clear before you make that leap. Your bar skills are ready to print money in sales. You've just got to aim them at that position and go for it. So the next episode is going to be talking about the 7 skills that quietly become a 6-figure career. You already have the skills. We're going to break down what those skills are. So follow along, subscribe, and I'll have that next video out in no time. And just follow along for the journey. If you're ready to make that change, I'm here for you. If you're ready to up your skill level, that's what Beyond the Bar is about. You can reach out to me and we can talk about what it looks like to up your skills and to make that transition as quick as possible so that you can get a high-paying sales position, and I help with that as well. So follow along, DM or comment if you're ready to make that jump right now. Peace.